Okay, everyone. So now we continue with our chapter 9 in part 2. After we maybe take some rest and finish our part 1 in chapter 9. Okay, so we'll continue with our part 2 in to discuss about ISO. Sorry. So ISO profit. We want to discuss about the ISO profit. Okay. So as you can see from that figure. Okay. So before this, we try to understand the basic of oligopoly, corner oligopoly. So now we will examine how the graphical determine the firm's profit. Firm profit. Recall that the profit of a firm in an oligopoly depend not only on the output it chooses to produce, but also on the output produced by other firms in the oligopoly. So in a duopoly, for instance, increases in firms 2 output will reduce the price of the output. Okay. In duopoly, for instance, increase in firms 2 output will reduce the price of the output. So this is due the law of demand. This is due the law of demand. As more output is sold in the market, so the price consumers are willing and able to pay for the goods declines. So this will of course alter the profit of the firm 1. Okay. Okay, the basic tool used to summarize the profit of a firm in corner oligopoly is an isoprofit curve. Isoprofit curve, so which define the combination of output of all firm that yield given firms the same level of profit. So this figure, okay, you can see from here, this figure 9.4, this is profit curve for firm 1. Present the reaction function. Yes, remember in part 1 we discussed about the reaction function for firm 1, or denoted as a R1, along with these three isoprofit curve labeled pi 0, pi 1 and pi 2. Pi 0, pi 1 and pi 2. That's isoprofit curve for firm 1. Okay. Four aspects of figure 9.4 are important to understand. The first point is every point on a given isoprofit curve yield firm 1 the same level of profit. Every point of a given isoprofit curve yield firm 1 the same level of profit. For instance, point F, A and G, F, A and G, you see all lie on a profit curve label pi 0. Thus each of these point yield profit of exactly pi 0 for firm 1. Okay. The second point that important for us to understand of this figure is isoprofit curve that lie closer to firm 1 monopoly output Q1M. Okay, Q1M. Thus monopoly output Q1M are associated with higher profit for that firm. For instance, isoprofit curve pi 2 implies higher profits that does pi 1, and pi 1 is associated with higher profit than pi 0. In other words, As we move down, forms one reaction function from point A to point C. From point A to point C, see from there, firms one's profit increase, right? And then the third point we have to see the important to understand for this figure is the iso profit curve for firm 1 reach their peak, where they intersect firms 1 reaction function. For instance, iso profit curve pi 0 peak at point A, peak at point A. Okay, so this okay, where it intersects, R1 and reaction 1, R1 and in pi 1, peak at point B, where it intersect R1 and so on. So this the last point for us to understand of this figure. The iso profit curve do not intersect one another. Iso profit curve do not intersect one another. So with an understanding of these four aspect of iso profit curve, we now provide further insight into managerial decision in Cournot oligopoly. Recall that one assumption of Cournot oligopoly is that each firm takes as given the output decision of rival firms and simply chooses its output to maximize profit given other firm output. So in figure 595, we will assume firms 2 output is given by Q2 star. Q2 star. Since firm 1 believe firm 2 will produce this output regardless of what firm 1 does, it chooses its output level to maximize profit when firm 2 produces Q2 star. So one possibility is for firm 1 to produce Q1A unit of output, which would correspond to point A on iso profit curve, pi 1A. However, this decision does not maximize profit because by expanding output to Q1B, firm 1 move to higher iso profit curve, which correspond to point B. So notice that profit can be further increased if firm 1 expand output to Q1C, which is associated with iso profit curve pi 1C. So it is not profitable for firm 1 to increase beyond Q1C. It's beyond Q1C here. It's not profitable. Even that firm 2 produce the Q2 star. So to see this, suppose firm 1 expanded output to say Q1D. So this would result in a combination of output that correspond to point D, which lies on an iso profit curve that yield lower profits. So we conclude that the profit minimizing output for firm 1 is Q1C. So whenever firm 2 produces Q2 star units. So this should not surprise you. This is exactly the output that correspond to firm 1's reaction function. So to maximize the profit, firm 1 pushes its iso profit curve as far down as possible I mean as close as possible to monopoly point, until it is just tangential to the given output of firm 2. So this tangency occurs at the point C in figure 9.5. So we can use as a profit curve to illustrate the profit of each firm in Contestable equilibrium. Recall that Contestable equilibrium is determined by intersection of two firms reaction function. Uh, okay, as you can see from here, for example, in figure 9.7, firms 1 isoprofit curve through point C is given by pi 1C, and firms 2 isoprofit curve is given by pi 2C. Okay. So in a Conan oligopoly, the effect of a change in marginal cost is very different than in a Sweezy oligopoly. To see why, suppose the firm initially are in equilibrium at a point E. Okay, for example, in point E here. Okay, where firm 1 produce Q1 star units and firm 2 produce Q2 star units. So now suppose firms 2 marginal cost declines. At the given level of outputs, marginal revenue remains unchanged but marginal cost is reduced. So this means that for firm 2, marginal revenue exceeds the lower marginal cost, and it is optimal to produce more output to any given level of Q1. So graphically, this shift firms 2 reaction function up from R2 to R2 star, 2 star. So leading to a new Conan equilibrium at point F. Thus, the reduction in firms 2 marginal cost leads to an increase in firms 2 output from Q2 star to Q2 star, and a decline in firms 1's output from Q1's, from Q1 to Q1 star 2. So this firm 2 enjoy a larger market share due to its improved cost situation. So the reason for the difference between the preceding analysis and the analysis of Sweezy oligopoly is the difference in the way a firm perceive how other firm will respond to a change in its decision. So these differences lead to differences in the way a manager should optimally respond to a reduction in the firm's marginal cost. So if the manager believes other firm will follow price reduction but not price increases, the Sweezy model applies. So in this instance, we learn that it may be optimal to continue to produce the same level of output even if marginal cost declines. If the manager believes other firm will maintain their existing output level if the firms expand output. So the Conan model will apply. So in this case, it is optimal to expand output if marginal cost declines. So the most important ingredient in making managerial decision in market characterized by interdependence is obtaining an accurate grasp of how other firm in the market will respond to the manager's decision. Okay. Okay, we want to see about the collusion now. So whenever a market is dominated by only a few firms, firm can benefit at the expense of consumer by agreeing to restrict output or equivalently to charge higher prices. Such an act by firms is known as collusion. So in following chapter, we will devote considerable attention to collusion. For now, it is useful to use the model of Conan oligopoly to show why such an incentive exists. So in this figure, okay, 9.9, the incentive to collude in a Conan oligopoly. Can see point C correspond to a Conan equilibrium. That's the point C. Okay, right. And it is the intersection of reaction function of the two firms in the market. So the equilibrium profit of firm 1 are given by isoprofit curve pi 1c, and those of firm 2 by pi 2c. So notice that the shaded lines shape area in this figure contains output level of the firms, of the two firms, that yield higher profit for both firms than they earn in a Conan equilibrium. For example, at point D, each firm produce less output and enjoy greater profit since each of the firm isoprofit curve at point D are closer to the respective monopoly point. So in effect, if each firm agreed to restrict output, the firms could charge higher prices and earn higher profit. So the reason is easy to see. Firm 1 profit will be highest at the point A where it is a monopolist. Firm 2 profit would be highest at the point B where it is a monopolist. Okay. So if each firm agreed to produce an output that is total equal the monopoly output, so the firm will end up somewhere on the line connecting points A and B. So in other words, any combination of output along line AB, okay, would maximize total industry profit. Okay. So the output on the line segment containing points E and F in this figure, this 9.9 does maximize total industry profit. And since they are inside the line shaded area, okay, they also yield both firms higher profit than would be earned if the firm produced at the point C, at the Conan equilibrium. So if the firm colluded by restricting output and splitting the monopoly profit, they will end up at the point like D, okay, earning higher profits of pi 1 collude and pi 2 collude. So at this point, the corresponding market price and output are identical to those rising under monopoly. Okay, so under the monopoly. So collusion lead to a price that exceed marginal cost and output below the socially optimal level, and that with loss. However, the colluding firms enjoy higher profit than they would earn if they competed as Conan oligopolies. So it is not easy for firm for reach such a collusive agreement. However, we will analyze this point in a greater detail in the next in the next chapter, but we can use our existing framework to see why collusion is sometimes difficult. Suppose firms agree to collude, with each firm producing the collusive output associated with point D in this in this 9.8, okay, to earn collusive profit. So given that's okay, so given that's the firm to produce Q2 collusive, okay, firms 1 has an incentive to cheat on collusive agreement by expanding output to point G. So at this point, firm 1 earns even higher profit than it would by colluding, since pi 1 cheat bigger than pi 1 collude. So this suggests a firm can gain by inducing other firm to restrict output and then expanding its own output to earn higher profit at the expense of its collusion partners. So because firm know this incentive exists, it is often difficult for them to reach collusive agreement in the first place. Okay, so this problem is amplified by the fact that firm 2 in figure here, okay, by 9.10 earns less at point G, where firm 1 cheat than it would have earned at point C, the Contestable equilibrium. Okay. Okay, up until this point, we have analyzed oligopoly situation that are symmetric in that firm 2 in the mirror image of firm 1. Okay, in many oligopoly market, however, firm differ from one another. So in Stackelberg oligopoly, firm differ with respect to when they make decision. Okay, specifically one firm, that means leader is assumed to make an output decision before the other firm. Okay, normally leader is assumed to make an output decision before other firm. So given knowledge of the leader's output, all other firms or followers take as given the leader's output and choose output that maximize profit. Thus, in a Stackelberg oligopoly, each follower behaves just like a corner oligopolist. In fact, the leader does not take the followers' output as given, but instead chooses an output that maximizes profits, given that each follower will react to this output decision according to corner reaction function. Okay. And because of that, so an industry is characterized as a Stackelberg oligopoly if, okay, you can see there are few firms serving many consumers. There's only a few, few firm, and then firms produce differentiated or homogeneous product. Okay, barriers to entry. Okay, firm 1 is the leader. Okay, so this is one of the very important character for this model. Okay, firm 1 is the leader, so that means the leader commit to an output before all other firms, and remaining firms are followers. So in Stackelberg model, we have leader and followers. Okay. Okay, you can see from here. Okay, this is Stackelberg equilibrium. Yeah, Stackelberg equilibrium. So to illustrate how a Stackelberg oligopoly work, okay, let us consider a situation where there are only two firms. So firm 1 is a leader and thus has a first mover advantage. Okay, that is firm 1 produce before firm 2. And firm 2 is a followers and maximize profit given the output produced by the leader. So because the follower produces after the leader, the follower profit maximizing level of output is determined by its reaction reaction function, right? So it normally denoted by R2, right? Okay, all right. So you can see from here, the quantity of output from company 1 or firm 1 and company 2, right? Right, and then this is the algebra of a Stackelberg model. Okay, right. Since the follower react to the leader's output, the follower's output is determined by its reaction function. Okay, and Stackelberg leaders use this reaction function to determine its profit minimizing output level, which is simplifies to here. Okay. So in summary, Stackelberg model illustrate how commitment can enhance profits in strategic environment. And then leader produce more than the corner equilibrium output, not like the corner equilibrium output. Okay, they just okay. Uh, in this Stackelberg, okay, we have a leader in the market. Okay, leader produce more than the corner equilibrium output. So larger market share, higher profit, and first mover advantage, okay, for the leader. And follower produce less than the corner equilibrium output. And then last but not least for this model, okay, the oligopoly model is Bertrand model environment. Okay, Bertrand model environment. So to further highlight the fact that there is no single model of oligopoly a manager can use in all circumstances, and to illustrate that oligopoly power does not always imply firm will make positive profit, we will next examine the Bertrand oligopoly. The treatment here assume the firm sell identical product, and that's consumer are willing to pay the finished monopoly price for the good. So an industry is characterized as a Bertrand oligopoly if, okay, there are a few firms that sell to many customers, and then firms produce identical product at constant marginal cost, and then each firms independently set its price in order to maximize profit. So price is each firm's control variable. So in this again almost similar like a Sweezy. Okay, as you can still remember, we are more focusing on price now. So barrier to exist, entry exist, and consumer enjoy in terms of perfect information and zero transaction cost, right? And then from the viewpoint of a manager, Bertrand oligopoly is undesirable. It leads to zero economic profit, where even if there are only two firms in the market. Okay, from the viewpoint of a consumer, Bertrand oligopoly is desirable, good for them. Okay, it leads to precisely the same outcome as a perfectly competitive market. Okay. So to explain more precisely the preceding assertion, uh, Consider Bertrand duopoly because consumer have perfect information and zero transaction cost, and because the product are identical, all consumer will purchase from the firm charging the lowest price, right? So for concreteness, suppose firm 1 charges the monopoly price by slightly undercutting this price. Okay? Firm 2 would capture the entire market and make positive profit. So while firm 1 would sell nothing. So therefore, firm 1 would retaliate by undercutting firm 2 lower price. So thus recapturing the entire market. So when would this price war end? So when each firm charge a price that equal marginal cost, okay, where P1 equal to P2 equal to marginal cost, right? So given the price of other firm, neither firm would choose to lower its price for then its price would be below marginal cost and it would make a loss. Also, no firm would want to raise its price for then it will be sell nothing. In short, Bertrand oligopoly and homogeneous product lead to a situation where each firm charge marginal cost and economic profit are zero. So since a P or price is equal to marginal cost, homogeneous product Bertrand oligopoly result in a socially efficient level of output. Indeed, total market output correspond to that in a perfectly competitive industry, and there is no deadweight loss. Okay. Okay, and then the last section for this chapter, we will discuss about the contestable market. Okay, thus far we have emphasized strategic interaction among existing firms in an oligopoly. Strategic interaction can also exist between existing firms and potential entrants into a market. To illustrate the importance of this interaction and its similarity to Bertrand oligopoly, okay, let us suppose a market is served by a single firm, but there is another firm, I mean a potential entrant, free to enter the market whenever it chooses. So before we continue our analysis, let us make more precise what we mean by free entry. What we have in mind here is what economists refer to as a contestable market. So a market is a contestable if you can see, okay, all producers, okay, have access to the same technology, and then consumer, okay, can respond quickly to price changes, okay, and then existing firm cannot respond quickly to entry by lowering price and then absence of sunk costs. So there are few implications. Some of the very important for us to remember about the contestable market. Okay, the threat of entry discipline firms already in the market. Okay, and then incumbent have no market power even if there is only a single incumbent, a monopolist. So in conclusion, different oligopoly scenarios give rise to different optimal strategies and different outcomes. And your optimal price and output depend on belief about the reaction of rival. Okay. So as you can see from Lee of this chapter. Okay, one of the very uh, frequently or repeatedly mentioned about reaction function. So choose your choice variable, P price or Q quantity, and the nature of the product, market, differentiated or homogeneous product, and then your ability to credibly commit prior to your arrival, right? Okay, that's all for chapter 9 in this part 2. Yeah. So, up until now, thank you very much and see you again